Hello, I'm Ulric Shannon. I'm the executive director of Surge Chicago and an alum of Surge. Yes, Surge is a national nonprofit organization that was really about education and leadership acceleration, dedicated to developing and elevating leaders of color who create transformative change for children, families, and our community. And I'm so proud that Chicago has the flagship program that is a 10-month, really, truly the best in class program for emerging leaders of color. And so our fellowship includes comprehensive leadership development experiences really designed to empower and equip those fellows with the skills they need to drive systemic change. Going through the fellowship at the time, it was like the perfect timing for me. It was what I needed. And so Surge definitely helped me realize the genius and the brilliance in me and like the ability to take risk with courage because you know what your ultimate vision and goal is. And so you got to have those folks who are willing to do that. It was important to me the belief that like education is the way out. Just education was important. I got a full ride to U of I, and I ended up going to U of I to get my bachelor's in political science. And through that program, I had a professor who nominated me for a program that actually afforded me the opportunity to start my master's degree program a year early. And so finished up at Oxford classroom where I got an additional master's in education and then got my MBA. And anybody from anywhere, from any neighborhood could do all of these things. This allows me the opportunity to tell that story to so many, especially young Black men that like when they don't necessarily have that confidence or feel inferior, like if I can do this, you certainly and you definitely can. I want you to see me and I want you to beat me because I know that you can. Yeah, I mean, Brown versus Board of Education is truly a monumental step, ending legalized, racial segregation in American schools and other places as well, but really signaling a crucial victory for the fight for civil rights. And so while we know that there's some mixed feelings about the decision and the outcome, but it really while it did pave the way for some integration and great education opportunities, it's also led to some significant resistance and unintended consequences, right? Such as the loss of Black teachers and school closures. And so we're still dealing with those effects 70 years later, the effects of that segregation in the form of achievement gaps, underfunded schools, and lack of representation in educational leadership. And so those are things that we are still dealing with in Chicago and nationwide. So a lot of folks are like, I didn't know that these things happened at the end. Like one, let's go back and say like the last school to desegregate. Wow. And we are still dealing with the effects of losing 38,000 teachers as a result of that 1954 decision. And so this is possibly a part of why we see fewer teachers of color in the classroom. It's more difficult to recruit them. I think that our school system here in Chicago are still dealing with and effects and the impacts of that decision today. I think it definitely pushed us to start to think about policies in a different way. I think folks led into a space of like I think the intentions were set to be right, but we can definitely see how like even with our greatest intentions, the impacts can be negative. And so we're thinking about this all the time, like how do we get more leaders of color, those for the type of transformation that we want to see in our educational landscape here in Chicago and a number of other cities that that Surge Institute supports in that effort. So I do think that desegregation and the efforts towards it was an effort around like what DEI meant, just different language of today. Mm-hmm. And so we are still on this fight. We can call it civil rights movement. We can call it all the things or whatever buzzwords we want to use at the time. I think the core of any of those is around ensuring equity, liberation, and justice for all people. And so we can use different language or different terms, but the vision and the goal will always remain the same. One is to integrate school. The city of Chicago was still a very segregated city. And so while the policy may be in place to integrate, some of the city level ordinances or policies kind of countered what we would hope to come out of that. And so that's why we still see today, when we think about even at the state level, while 49% of our students are Hispanic or Asian, only 16% of our teachers at the state level are Black, Hispanic, or Asian. At the city level, 80% of our students are Black or Hispanic, and you have 45% of our teachers, only 45% of our teachers being Black or Hispanic. And so we're still dealing with that while that number is low, and there's a lot of efforts from a lot of different organizations to bring in more teachers of color. Illinois still has the lowest level of retention rates, specifically Black teachers. And so while I think we've come a long way, I'll say we have to acknowledge we still have a long way to go. Where our young young people, their parents, their grandparents have had really poor relationships with the educational system and with school. We discipline our students a different way than we do our
Mhm.
white students. It's even a challenge when the reality is it's like it's sometimes your own people doing their own things because we are also operating within those systems. I mean, I just want to let people know that there are people fighting every single day to improve our educational system. Systems of oppression, they adjust when they can see you coming. And so just know and believe in your organization, in your community, and the people that they are fighting every day, and the fights look different.